Olen van was a YouTube Center. Kamalam nung associate si Josingwe and welcome back to my channel. Today we are joined by Mr. Sage. Say hello to everyone.
Oh, hi everyone.
I hope you guys have been doing well. So today we are talking about our assumptions about marriage, and also things that we knew about marriage and we were very intentional that we are not going to repeat in our marriage, and like ideas and perspectives on marriage that we were like, nope, that's not going to happen in ours. So you guys will get to hear all of those, but for now, please do not forget to leave a comment. You can ask us anything, and do not forget to share this video and like it. And if you are new in our channel, welcome to the YouTube Center. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. So let's get right into it. You want to go first?
Ladies first, as they say.
Okay, so I think I've talked about some of the expectations or assumptions that I had about marriage quite often. One of the biggest ones, I think, is that because of my background, the way I was brought up, coming from the village and coming from a very traditional church with very traditional perspectives of marriage, which somehow are very motivated and influenced by the patriarchal beliefs. So I thought that in as much as I would have a voice within my own marriage, it would be limited. That my husband would make like most of the major decisions about our lives, and that I'll only have a little opinion. I didn't really expect the kind of treatment that I get. And at the beginning, I remember being frustrated and questioning his leadership skills, because I'm like, are you a true leader if you are behaving like this? But God has been so gracious in teaching me new ways of communicating, new ways of having my voice heard, new ways of destroying or dismantling the ideas of patriarchal system in my head and rebuilding what it means to be in a partnership, what it means to be in love with your man and making decisions together, rather than it being made by the head of the home. Yeah,
that was a mouthful.
It was,
but okay.
It was. So that was like my first one. Did you have something like that you would be the head of the home?
Well, it was more, I didn't want to be that head of the home. I know about that, but I find it utter nonsense. To me, it feels like, I almost said suppression. Oppression. To me, that's how it felt like. I get it, but I feel like it's oppressive. That's just my views.
Yeah. And me expecting that kind of treatment doesn't mean that I was for that and I wanted that. It just meant that was some of the expectations that I had, and I didn't expect what I got. And I think also in our relationship, you are very much aware of how much pressure you could be under if you take all of that into your own shoulders. So that's something else that was kind of like written off my expectations. So yeah, you know.
My first one would be, I think, one that's common for all newly married people, where they're told that they should not have non-married friends. So the friends that you should keep are married friends. I get where it comes from, where it stems from, because if you are single, you have a single mentality. That's where it comes from, the belief. So if perhaps we are going through a rough time and my single friend advises me, no man, just leave her, that single mentality, just leave. I get it, but I think it's also utter nonsense. I think as a person, you know what your friends are like and who you can believe and trust, even if they're married or not. You must just watch the company you keep, whether they're married or not. That's it.
Doesn't really
matter.
And I think with that concern, we got married when we were very young. And I think amongst my own friends, I was the first one to get married. And so having made and established friendships from way back in high school, through varsity, and through the first years of me working as a working adult, and then having to give all of that up because suddenly I became a married person, it would have altered my individuality. It would have altered my self-image, the relationships that I have with everyone, and would have actually self-isolated me.
And now you must also now go find new married people. So that's like fake friendships.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not to say even married people actually are actually
gonna be good company.
Yeah. I know people that try to fix their marriage through you, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
No, sorry. So I mean, what I mean by that is that he'll be going through something, or she will be going through something, but won't do anything about it in their marriage.
Yeah.
But will come and advise you on your marriage, like, don't do that, you should do this, blah, blah, blah. Which might not necessarily be good.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
And I think within couple, if you like starting out as couple friends, there's a lot of comparison and there's a lot of competition within those relationships, because there's this background mentality, or this thought, this thinking that whose marriage is better than whose husband is better than whose. What is this husband doing for his wife that my husband isn't? So it's a bit of a sacred space, as well as a space that you should be careful to not really in establishing the new relationships. So, and we do have married friends.
We do.
And they're incredible. Wonderful. They are incredible. Wow. However, we've kept all of our friends who are not married, and some of them are starting now, starting to get married. But yeah, that's what we've done. And another one for me, an assumption that I had, was that my husband would not be interested in household stuff, like picking up the kind of pots that I want, the color of my kitchen cupboards, buying coffee machine, like anything that has to do with the kitchen mainly. I don't think my husband would be interested in that. I thought I had the deciding voice, like, because usually men are like very nonchalant about what happens in the kitchen. It's like that's a woman's place and that's a woman's job. And when we first got married and we were picking out new stuff for our house, this guy would want to be there with me, and he would have an opinion. And honestly, we fought a lot, to a point where we started doubting whether or not we should have gotten married, because we're just not seeing eye to eye on a lot.
That first year was tough. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, so our first year was tough. Like, I think it was a year of both of us learning about each other and realizing how much of different tastes we have, and how different we were in the things that we liked. So that was a shocker for me. And so now what we do is that he's the one who buys the stuff and then asks me for my opinion, because guys, Olir is very specific. Like, he is very specific, and he does research on stuff. What are we currently looking for now?
A couch.
We're currently looking for a new couch, and I chose a design. I was like, this is the design that I want, and so he wants to choose the fabric, the color.
You're gonna live with this thing for the rest of your life, or almost. I mean, you gotta make sure you're happy.
Yeah, and I'm an impulsive buyer, so if I need something, I go ahead and buy it. And sometimes I don't really think, whereas he is the opposite of me. So that's something that I've had to learn in marriage, and that's an assumption that has been that has not been true for me. Yeah.
Okay. The other one for me, piggybacking on what you're saying, is if I could say, gender-based roles within the marriage.
Yes.
Look, we all as people have our strong suits, but we should not force it or make it a thing that you are the wife, you cook. By the way, you're an amazing cook. I suck at cooking. I hate cooking. I'd rather just get takeaways. But that whole thing where the wife is the cook, the cleaner, must take care of the baby. I bring home the bacon, these gender-based
set
roles,
roles,
you know, I think in a relationship we must just be fair, you know, it's equal.
Even besides being fair, I think it must be something that the other one enjoys doing, and something that the other one actually has a skill in doing.
True.
And not being forced to do it because it's an expectation because of
marriage.
your gender.
I've seen that causing a lot of problems in people's marriage, because a lot of, I know from men's side, they have this expectation that a woman should do this. But in today's days, our wives have jobs just like us, you know, they work just as hard as us, and now to come home and be expected to cook and, you know, just
I had one of those. I also thought that the men take out the trash. What do men do? They don't have much in terms of,
to be honest, we don't actually
in their responsibilities, and so we often feel like we're being enslaved in our marriages. However, even from our courting stage, because we spent so much time getting to know one another, I already knew what kind of guy you were. So those expectations was like, they started being rewritten and redefined during that time. So walking into marriage, I knew that it was me and you doing life together, however way that turned out to be. And there wasn't this huge expectation on my shoulders to do all of these things and be expected to be all of these things, which, following also on my third point about my in-laws, you know how in the Xhosa culture, ukotiza and the relationship or the lack of relationship that often is evident within the in-laws, how people relate with one another, how it's often so formal and it really lacks intimacy. So I thought that might happen, but my in-laws are such incredible people, and the parents actually opened up for me and welcomed me as part of their children or one of their children, and treat me like that, which is something that I'm grateful for, obviously, and also something that was I think redefined again in our marriage. So that was my third point.
Almost piggybacking on that, also
that. He steals my ideas.
Yeah. If you can't come up with one, just steal it.
Piggyback.
The whole thing of when you get married, have a baby immediately. Normally there's the pressure from either friends or mainly actually parents. Thankfully my parents were not like that. They did have the questions also, when can we expect a little one?
You know what I think happened with them? I think they gave up.
I think they gave up. I honestly think they also gave up. They're like, you know what, whatever.
They waited, and then it became 4 years, and then they were like, you know what?
Yeah. So that's one thing that, just going back to that we did not abide to. We didn't subscribe to when we got married immediately we tried out for a baby. No, we just wanted to enjoy our lives, basically, you know,
like properly,
and we did that. It was good.
4 years.
It was good. 4 years, guys, having a baby. Hi.
I was actually saying yesterday how boring our lives have become.
Because you get into a routine now.
And the routine is very important for the development and the growth of the child.
So there's nothing wrong with it. But so much of your day now is actually got. You can't do much. And I think also, in concluding, when we got married, Liri and I were very adamant on finding our own rhythm within our marriage and not comparing ourselves with anyone else or any other couple, and not doing what everybody else is doing, and making sure that the values and the morals and the assumptions and expectations that the marriage industry has doesn't necessarily apply to us. That doesn't always apply to us. So even to this day, even with our parenting journey, we are so intentional about finding what works for us and going with that. And it has actually been so helpful because there's no pressure associated with that. And that idea was actually his idea, like, babe, let's try and find what works for us and not go with the crowd. And so he's been
very much of an amazing leader. I said I questioned your leadership skills at the beginning.
I'm glad I made up,
So he is an amazing leader in that sense that he comes up with stuff, and he shows up for whatever decisions that we make, and he's very consistent in applying them. So yeah, and I think the purpose of this video was for us to just talk about how normal it is for a marriage not to be what you expected it to be. However, so much in a positive sense, and to show you guys that a young married couple can come up with their own values. You can make up your own traditions. You can make up your own values and find your own rhythm and dance to that without the pressure of wanting to look alike.
So yeah, I think it's important that in your marriage you must be happy. I know it's a standard, but be happy. And if it means going against what people think in order for you to be happy, do that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when you're happy and you're happy in your marriage, it makes it fun.
Yeah.
Make your partner happy, and you guys will last forever. Don't be miserable because you're trying to please other people.
Do you remember when you thought that marriage would be boring?
Dude. Because that's what I see out there, and people are like, yo, I have to go home now. Yo, my wife this, my husband that. But anyway.
And it's actually not that. And you remember that guy who said you are the only guy that he knows who speaks positively about marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes to say that it is.
Many people don't want to get married, or are afraid to get married because of what they see and what they hear from people, especially the people that have been married for a long time, 15 years. I think they get to a level where they're like stagnant, and they are not particularly happy, but I guess they're staying because what else can they do? Or they don't even try to make things better, they're just living with it. So that ends up with them sounding miserable. They're not talking positive about their marriage. And if you see a lot of these as a young guy, like, why should I get married if this is the
end result?
The end result.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's the end of our video. So thank you for watching. And if you've got more questions about stuff that we didn't talk about, or stuff that you would like us to talk about, please do not forget to comment down below and let us know what those are. Otherwise, this is it from us. Right? All right. Bye, guys. See you in the next video.
Ciao.